Hey, it's SickBoy from the Gaminganarchist Collective and welcome to the Anarchic Eye for the 28th of April 2014. Microsoft have been talking quite a lot about their TV offerings. Now, it's become a big joke really within the industry going, haha, the Xbox TV. But let me just explain where they're coming from here and why you should be aware and what they actually want from you. Now, they have announced, obviously, they're making the Halo episodes with Steven Spielberg. They've also said that they are going to strongly consider Gears of War, Forza, why Forza? God knows why, and Fable. Now, I can understand that you could make some TV shows out of Gears of War and Fable. Forza, not really so sure you could make anything of interest really out of it, unless it's just for petrolheads, which obviously it will be, but I mean, what are you going to make, really? I mean, I'm not entirely sure what they're going to make of that, unless they make something like god-awful Aaron Paul Need for Speed film, which was just vomit-inducingly bad. Anyway, the reason they're doing this is really, all it is about ad revenue. Because basically they are, they intend to have you watching the Xbox as the primary source in your home. That is how they're budgeting it. That's what they're pushing for. Now, because a lot of people are either not playing through their Xbox One, or they have a smart TV, or they watch things on tablets, they want you watching on the Xbox One because that is ad revenue to them. It is also gold subscription, because they've talked about this and they've said they're not sure what's going to be in front of the paywall and what's going to be behind the paywall. Now, you can damn well guarantee that most things are going to be behind the paywall. If Netflix is behind the gold paywall, then you're damn well sure that a lot of their original programming will be behind the paywall. Now, I don't think this is necessarily any kind of bad thing. It's a little bit funny. I mean, the idea of a Forza. And really, I mean, Gears of War will just turn out to be the most homoerotic show ever. But I can see why they're trying to do that. They're making a logical, sensible decision. They want your screen time because your screen time is worth money. Because every time you're watching, they can throw adverts at you. Pre-roll ads, mid-roll ads, pop-up ads, they can do that. That's where they make their money from. That's why they implemented the tile effect when they went to Windows, before they went to Windows 8 on the Xbox, went for the tiled effect because it allowed them to have tiles of adverts on there. They really upped their advertising offering since the launch of the 360. My God, it is now such an heavily advertised platform. It's really hard to know. Well, sorry, is that DLC? Oh no, that's a trailer for something or other. It's quite tricky, to be honest, and it will fool a lot of people. It makes them ad revenue, either on purpose or accidentally people clicking on the wrong tabs. So that's what they're doing. What I'm more confused about, really, is why Sony aren't leveraging their position as an entertainment giant. This is what baffles me, because what Microsoft want is they want to, put in things like, they want to take over music and streaming, and yet Sony are already there, practically. I mean, they haven't integrated it with their console software, but I mean, they have the Flixster thing. That's pretty much all, not all Sony titles, but they have so much stuff on Flixster. The Flixster app should be on the PlayStation. Not to mention, they own shows like Breaking Bad, which is ultimately one of the biggest TV shows for years. And they didn't think to stream things like that, or make a exclusive tie-in game. It's quite bizarre when you think about how they own, say, the rights to Spider-Man. They own the movie rights to Spider-Man. They could make a Spider-Man TV show like that, stream it purely on the PlayStation 4. Would that make money? Damn right it would. It would make more money than a Forza program would. Make more money than Halo would. Make more money than Gears of War, Fable. Spider-Man is an internationally recognised property. In a way that console exclusive games are not. So I'm kind of baffled, really. And in a way, I'm glad to see Sony focus on the games. However, they do need to be aware, if they want to compete in the marketplace, not against Nintendo necessarily, which are games for games and peripherals for peripherals, but with Microsoft that are playing the long game and they're playing the media entertainment game. If Sony wants to compete with Microsoft on the media entertainment side of things, they need to up that offering. They do. Now, they don't utilise paywalls for things like Netflix and what have you, and that is, for me, what makes them the superior offering. However, if Microsoft start leveraging huge amounts of cash for unique programming that's only available on the Xbox, damn right that's going to make them sales. And I'd like to see healthy competition. Of course, I'd also like to see healthy competition more on games. And I'd like to see Microsoft, rather than them focusing on increasing their TV offering, perhaps up the some way, they're not going to be able to do it, but somehow perhaps maybe up the actual output of the Xbox One so it plays games in better quality. That would be a bigger seller for me. If they could get 60 frames per second and 1080p on games that can run that on the PlayStation 4, that would be quite nice and more interesting to me than a Gears of War TV show, but each to their own. It appears now a fourth high-profile member of the Naughty Dog team has left. In this case was the art director for The Last of Us. This is now the fourth high-profile person leaving the business. Now this means one of two things, to be honest, and first of all, on a slightly humorous note, if this exodus does continue, I do suspect now that Uncharted 4 is literally going to be Nolan North covered in ping pong balls, just running around going, "Ah, crap!" and just making witticisms, because that seems to be pretty much all the series has left, with no fucking staff writing or doing the art. But I digress. This could well be a serious warning sign for Naughty Dog. It could be a sign that Sony are exerting a certain amount of control over them and it's stifling creativity and people are moving on. It could also be the fact that there's just no real role for them in the company anymore. They may have reached the pinnacle of what they can do and other people may be replacing them. Better people. I don't know. You don't know either. Now, this all comes down to how the media spin the story. Media like to weave facts into a narrative. Now, this narrative the narrative right now is Naughty Dog a hemorrhaging talent. Now, fourth major talent in the last couple of months left the company. Interestingly, I have to say, only when Amy Hennig left, they were talking about how it was a sexist putsch to remove her from her place of power. Oddly enough, no one said that about the other three people who have gone. But perhaps people are just seeking problems where there in fact are none in this instance. This instance is very much just like people are pursuing better opportunities elsewhere. Does that mean that Naughty Dog has nothing but crap to bring? I hope not. They have made some high quality titles. But frankly, I don't know, I haven't seen anything of Uncharted, nobody has, it's purely just been a trailer and a couple of bits of, I'm not sure there's even any concept art out, I mean it's all just in a black hole, and The Last of Us being released yet again on the PlayStation 4, which again is why people should be pissed about no backwards compatibility. This is why they did not have an emulator. Wasn't to save money, wasn't for any positive thing, it was because they wanted to allow the re-release of games with a bit of spit and polish, and that's what's happening here. Question is, what is actually happening at Naughty Dog? Or is anything happening at Naughty Dog? Is it just happening that 4 people appear to have just moved on from a company? That in itself is not big news. So are the media grasping at straws, or is there something seriously bad going on over at that studio? It appears that the developers from Software, the makers of the Souls series, being Demon Souls, Dark Souls, and prior to that the Kingsfield series and the likes, have just been bought by the Kadokawa Corporation. What that may well mean for gaming is that, anyway, if you're not aware, this is a fairly large group, conglomerate corporation, and as part of this corporation, they've published a couple of the Grasshopper games. So they published Suda51's Lollipop Chainsaw and also Killer is Dead. So that's where their pedigree is. They also have a publishing house that has a lot of mobile games. They publish a lot of manga and a lot of other bits and pieces as well. But they also have some arms with their fingers in pies with regards to video games. Interestingly enough, of course, that publisher doesn't actually publish in the West. They outsource. Killer is Dead, I believe, was published by Deep Silver in the West. So it will be interesting to see whether they think that they can have a grip on the Western audience by having the Dark Souls developers, because the Souls series has been so successful, certainly for obviously it's a Western style action game with RPG elements, really as opposed to a proper RPG. I mean, it is an RPG, it does have the levelling up and everything, it does have that sort of tree, it does have the weapon and everything, but really I would call it more of an action game than I would an RPG, personally. It blurs that line, but that has been hugely popular. Dark Souls 2 has sold immensely well, seconded only by Titanfall. I mean, that's pretty spectacular for what is essentially a niche title. You just raise the question, how will this affect Namco Bandai, who have been publishing the Souls games? It'll be interesting to see how that will come out and whether that will either increase their output of stuff to the West, maybe they'll extend their reach and publish directly in the West as a first-party publisher, or whether they will again seek deals with organisations such as Deep Silver, who are really growing leaps and bounds as publishers go. They're probably the fastest growing publisher of all of them right now. They really have taken over big time and have published a shite ton of games, not to mention, the huge amount of THQ's rights that they bought up. So I'll be interested to see where that goes, and I hope it doesn't lead to anything negative. Now, I've got my criticisms of Dark Souls 2, but frankly, fucking love it. I've put in close to 100 hours already on the game, and I'm just about to migrate over to playing it on PC, which I may well do on Twitch. I will do a playthrough on Twitch. I'm not a very good Souls player, but I at least know my way around the game, and we can talk about the lore and geek out, but we'll see what happens there, seeing how my time goes. And to round things off, DFC Intelligence, and these are a market analytics company, have predicted that PC gaming will be earning more revenue than consoles come next year. Now, some of these analyses that they've made, I am going to call ignorant bullshit on. Now, it may well be that PC gaming is on the rise, because it seems to be to me. The amount of exclusives on PC, the prevalence of Steam have been huge boons. And on top of that, things like Humble Bundles, great companies like GOG that don't offer DRM, Green Man Gaming offering good prices. It's becoming a hugely attractive thing, and of course you don't necessarily need an absolute killer machine to play most games. What they are saying, they're saying a few things. One is that to play a game, the PC used to be a luxury and now it's a necessity. Now, I disagree with that. I think they are behind the times there. Having a computer is a necessity. Having a PC, not a necessity. I don't believe having an actual machine that can play video games is a necessity. People run on tablets, mobile devices, they need connection to the internet, and they definitely need some kind of device that allows them to connect to the internet for working on reading emails and the like. So yes, laptops, netbooks, those things exist. But a netbook, you can't play a game on a netbook. Most netbooks can't run a fucking game. They could barely even play the music on a YouTube video. It's bollocks. Tablet machines are not well built to a AAA game. There are some, of course, there are the gaming tablets, but those are high-end luxury devices. Laptops, hit and miss depending on whether you've got an internal GPU or not. Desktops, again, depends on how up-to-date it is. It's an interesting one, and I do think, though, it does reflect the truth that PC gaming is still on the rise. Now, they've also said that because there's a new console out, they expect to see huge amounts of console games sold. But ultimately, the market is not saturated with next-gen games. There are none, frankly. There are hardly any PS4 and Xbox One and Wii U games. There is Mario Kart coming out, and that's going to excite a lot of people. Smash Brothers is coming out. That's going to excite a lot of people. Hopefully, the Fatal Frame game will come to the West. That'd be nice. On Sony's side of things, you've got Uncharted, you've got, God help us, another version of The Last of Us, which just pisses me off, to be honest. That does piss me off. Yeah, I know, it's good for people who never had a PlayStation 3, who had a PlayStation 4, have a chance to play it, but backwards compatibility should have been a factor, as I previously mentioned. But, there are some games that are going to be cross-gen, Watch Dogs, Destiny, titles like that. There's really not much in the way of exciting titles. Now, I know that will be leading up to E3, and E3 may well get everybody's panties in a bunch and get people rushing to get a console for Christmas, where all the big releases are going to be, because that's generally what happens. The early adopters get in the early machines, they iron out a few bugs, they update the UI, and then come the following year, the games will start coming. That's what's been happening. That's what's going to happen with the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4. Right now, there is a game drought. There is not much. I have switched back to my PlayStation 3 and I've been playing on my PC. There's been nothing to hold my interest on the PlayStation 4 lately. And the same with the Xbox One, even though I haven't got one. There's been nothing that's really grasped me to think, well, fuck me, let's plug in this next-gen system. Really? Not so much. Not for at least a month and a half has a game been released that I've even bothered looking at. Oh, that'd be interesting. Seriously, I've played more of Dark Souls 2 than I've played of any other game on next-gen system. That may just be me. Of course, other people will like other games. We all have our own tastes. But this in of itself is an interesting dynamic. It does see that perhaps gaming, however, is becoming a big thing. It is a big thing now. It has established a big thing. I mean, a major release is now bigger than a Hollywood blockbuster. However, there is definitely being more of a split. Console gaming is pretty much aimed at the big three titles, really. I mean, you're looking at COD, Battlefield and FIFA, or Madden if you're in the US. FIFA's selling pretty well internationally, obviously, probably more so than Madden does. It probably shifts more units. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I'll be pretty willing to stake that I reckon FIFA is more popular than Madden internationally. And so they have, again, it's kind of like the free-to-play. They have kind of whale customers. They buy a console, they buy the same iteration of a game year on, year out. Those games are successful. Whereas with the PC, there is a much greater variance. There's a much greater variance of models as well. There at least are more reasonable free-to-play models than there are on consoles. However, that said, the PlayStation 4 does have some decent free-to-play titles. They do. I haven't played COD, the new COD. I'm not really into. I can't be finding an interest in it anymore. However, what I have been doing is playing a bit of Blacklight Retribution if I feel like some FPS, and that seems to scratch my itch, and I haven't paid a penny for it. So thank you very much for that. That's handy. You know, it is, the whole thing is an interesting dynamic. I don't really think that analysis is spot on. However, they are trying to make a pattern out of the trend, and the trend is that more and more people are moving to PC gaming. Whether that will change, of course, when consoles become a stable and more powerful, because of course the previous generation of consoles are woefully out of date as opposed to PC tech. Well, time will tell, but I do predict that there will be a continued growth within PC gaming, particularly with the abomination that is early access. That's making a goddamn fortune. Kickstarter titles equally making a goddamn fortune. Unfortunately, they're growing the market for entirely the wrong reasons, but they are growing the market. Anyway, guys, you've been looking through the 2020 vision of the Anarchic Eye. Thanks a lot for watching. I'll catch you guys later.